These are 10 things I wish I knew when I started playing guitar, and it's kind of based on, what most beginners would need to know. But even if you've been playing guitar for a while, you may find yourself in a rut at times, you may find something useful in this video. So here we go. The first thing I wish I knew is practice everything slowly and with a metronome. Okay. Now, when you try to practice things too fast, I know like you can get impatient. You want to like nail it at the, full speed. You try to do it at full speed, and most likely you will make a mistake. And when you do that, you end up practicing the mistake. So it's better to do things slowly, do it really slowly if you have to, but play it till you don't make a mistake. And play it at that speed, and then slowly you can start ramping up the speed. When I learn to practice complicated things, the first thing I do is I slow the whole thing down to like half speed, and I learn to play it at very slow speeds for maybe like half an hour or an hour. And then I slowly start ramping up the speed. So I make sure I can play it, at a slow speed. I used to always want to rush into things and want to like, do everything very quickly. And it never ended well till I learned how to like slow it down and learn from there. And these days you use a whole bunch of software to slow things down. You can do it on YouTube. You can just set it at a slower speed and play along with that, and then slowly put the speed up. When you learn to practice with a metronome, you learn how to develop your internal clock. It just happens, it's a byproduct of that. Once your internal clock is well developed, you can play well with other musicians, you can play to a click. All the things that need your internal clock to be strong, those things become a bit easier. And also helps you relax because you're not really thinking about where you need to put the notes. It kind of just happens, and you learn to breathe easier and learn to play everything in time. The next one is work on both your strengths and weaknesses. Now, there are things that we are naturally good at, and some things need a little bit more effort. So it's great to dedicate your time and your effort into the things that actually need work in your playing. But there are also things that you naturally be good at. And if you just spend a little bit of time on that, you kind of develop that and perfect it to a point where it actually becomes something very unique about your playing that you do. So don't forget to work on your strengths as well as your weaknesses. The next one is listen to everything and know your history. Listen to every single genre, EDM, jazz, classical, blues, rock, whatever it is. There's something great in every genre that is worth learning from. So don't like look down on any kind of form of music. There's always good artists and bad artists in every genre. So look for the good ones, pick out the best of that genre, and you never know how it could influence your playing. Another thing is when you draw from a wide list of artists, you end up being a richer blend of it than if you were just drawing from one particular genre. So, like, say, if you want to listen to rock, listen to blues as well, because that's where a lot of rock came from. Which leads me to the next point is listen to who your influences listen to. And these days it's easy to find out. You just read interviews and they tell you who they're listening to. So, like, say, for example, you're a big fan of John Mayer, then you can go back and listen to Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eric Clapton, B.B. King, all his influences, Jerry Garcia, the Grateful Dead, all that kind of stuff. Listen to where your favorite artists are coming from. You'll kind of get a better understanding of their music. And also, you may find things that they missed out on. They may have taken only a certain aspect of someone's playing. You may latch on to another aspect of it, which then kind of, makes you a little bit more rounded in understanding the history of the music. So I'm always doing that. I'm listening to where the music has come from and trying to like get as close to the source as possible. Also, especially as guitar players, we love listening to guitar music. So listen to music which doesn't have guitar. And even the music that does have guitar, listen to the other instruments, listen to the drums, listen to the bass, because the guitar is only one part of the whole picture. So you kind of want to get a firm understanding of the rhythm section, of like the keyboards, the vocals and stuff like that. There's very cool melodies that singers sing sometimes that, can be adapted to guitar. There's certain inflections that they use while singing that can be adapted to guitar. Say a song like Stairway to Heaven. If you only practice the guitar part, you're kind of going to miss this beautiful flute part or a recorder part that comes in, which goes like. So listen to everything. The next one is learn a little bit about how to set up your guitar And there's two things to keep in mind. One is the intonation, and the second is the action. Now, the intonation is a simple concept. That means if you take your harmonic on the 12th fret and you play the fretted note at the 12th fret, they should be exactly the same pitch. So if you have a somewhat accurate tuner, you can actually see that on the tuner. And you can just make sure that this note is the same as the harmonic that you get. Now, in case the fretted note is sharper than the harmonic, that means that this saddle, the point of contact of the string at the bridge, is too close, okay, to the neck, so it needs to move further away. So if your fretted note is sharp, move the saddle away from the neck, and if your fretted note is flat, move the saddle closer. Now, most guitars you'll find there's a point where you can do that. On a Les Paul, it's on this side with the screw. On a Strat, it's that side at the bridge. Just learn where each guitar has its intonation point. All you need is a screwdriver and a tuner, and you should be able to do that pretty easily. The next thing to keep in mind is the action. Now, usually if a guitar's action is too low, what happens is you get something like a buzzing effect where it goes clackety clack, clickety clack when you play the strings. You want the string to ring clearly, and maybe a little bit of buzz is acceptable if you hit like really hard. But if you play it, without any volume, you should get a clear ringing sound and not like a percussive kind of a thing. What happens is if the guitar buzzes, you will need more gain to kind of, cover that up. The guitar's not generating that much sustain. So you need to compensate in other ways. You'll also end up using more delay and reverb and all that stuff, which masks the natural sound. So if you can learn how to get a natural sound from the guitar itself, that makes a huge difference. The next one is get your sounds from the instrument itself. These days, we have a whole bunch of technology and gadgets available to shape the sound of the guitar. But I think learning how to get a sound out of an instrument itself without relying on anything will only be a useful thing. Now, the volume and tone controls become a big part of my playing especially. So if you say have an amp which is slightly crunchy, okay, and with your volume on full, it sounds like this. Just turning that volume down will clean up the instrument. So there's a wide range of sounds available in this volume knob itself, and there's also the tone knob. So if you turn that down, and if you turn it up, because I find usually most instruments, the bridge pickup tends to be a little too harsh. So all I have to do is turn that tone knob down a little bit. So on this guitar, it's between 5 and 6. And it's way more usable than, and you have it around say 4 or 5. And then even with the guitar volume up, and also what happens is then your bridge pickup becomes much more compatible with the neck pickup. So learning to use the pickups and the controls of the guitar is a good thing. Just experiment and see what different sounds you can get. You may have to set up the amp a little bit more driven to compensate for the volume loss, but that's never a problem. Just turn the amp up and turn the guitar volume down and see what happens there. Another thing to keep in mind is the pick that you use makes a huge difference. So if you were to use a thicker and a harder material in the pick, it's going to sound different to a thinner and a floppier pick. Okay, this one's a nylon, this one's a Tortex. You can hear the difference. There's a little bit more body, I think, in a softer material that comes, but you get a little bit more tack from the harder pick. Picks are cheap. Buy as many as you can and see what works for you. Also, different areas of where you pick. Like closer to the neck is going to be warmer. Closer to the bridge is going to be brighter. So you can kind of exaggerate it, especially if you're on the bridge pickup and you do. It's going to be a different sound too. Or even. It's all different sounds where you pick on the length of the string. So learn to use that to your advantage. The next one is learn your major scale all across the neck. Because when I was learning to play, I would just learn to play the G major scale, for example, like this. And I would be happy, right? I learned my G major scale, but now you got to do it in a few different ways. So the first thing to do is if you can play 3 notes per string, which requires kind of a little bit of a stretch, but 3 notes per string is like this. Okay, now there are 7 notes in the scale, which means there are 7 different positions you can play the G major scale. So if you look at your major scale this way, all you have to do is play 3 notes per string starting on each of those 7 notes. So I just did the first one. Now the second one would be the third one would be and the fourth one would be the fifth one would be the sixth one would be the seventh would be and then finally you're back to the first one where you started. Okay, and then you can also do 4 notes per string. Now the whole idea is to use the index finger to move between the first and second note per string. Okay, this is the one that's doing the pivoting. And then you've got, okay, then you've got, and then, and then, and then finally, and then you go back downward. Okay, so just keep in mind it's this guy that's doing all the work. The seventh one is relative minor. Now this was quite a revolutionary concept for me. I think I found this out when I was like 10 or something like that. It kind of blew my mind. The concept is very simple. If you take your major scale and you number the notes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and when you come to the last note, it's the 8th note of the scale, which is the same note as the first, but just an octave higher. And then you can kind of repeat that. And then, okay, so it's the same 7 notes, just keep on ascending. Now the 6th note of that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that note is your relative minor. So if you have G major, the notes are G, A, B, C, D, E. E becomes your 6th note, so E minor becomes the relative minor of G major. So if you take that 6th note and you play your major scale starting from there, you get your E minor scale. So your E minor scale and your G major scale have the same notes. The G major scale goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is also 1. And then you take the minor scale and that's going 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can look at it as a ring railroad where the major scale, the train starts at station number 1 and goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and then comes back to 1. It's completed a circle. Now the minor train is on the same track, same stations, but it starts at station number 6. So it goes 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that is your minor train. So major and minor So if your G major scale is equal to your E minor scale, that means they're using the same notes. And it's good to keep in mind that if you have a minor chord, it has a relative major. If you have a major chord, it has a relative minor. Now, if you're going from the major to the minor, it's usually 3 frets down. Major more, minor less, 3 frets down. Now, if you take D major and you want to go 3 frets down to your relative minor. If you've got E major and you want to go 3 frets down, you've got your relative minor. Similarly, if you've got a minor and you want relative major, you go 3 frets up, minor less, major more, so you go up. If you've got C minor, you've got E flat major. So every minor chord has a relative major, every major chord has a relative minor. If you take a song like it's doing exactly that. It's going between the major and the relative minor. So very useful concept to know. The 8th one is you can harmonize a scale across the neck this way. So if you take a C major scale this way, you've got 7 notes that you go in this direction. Now let's take the C major 7 chord. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing for every note of this chord. I'm going to make those notes go over the C major scale. So now this I've already done. Now the next note is this G. Now the next one is this B, which is the major 7. They're just ascending using the notes of the C major scale. Okay. And the last one is this E. Now if I put those all together, I'm going to get something that sounds like this. So I've got C major 7, I've got D minor 7, E minor 7, F major 7, G7 or G dominant 7, A minor 7, B minor 7 flat 5, and back to your C major 7. Now you can also leave this note of the scale, the major 7th, out, and you can just take this, which is the 1, 3, and 5. So you get this. And you can use this like to make like you can even take 2 notes of those. And you can just get these beautiful harmonies that go across the neck. The last 2 points are pretty much related with soloing because quite a few people like playing their own guitar solos. So the first thing I want to talk about is bending. Now when you bend, the most important thing is bending in tune. So if I've got a bend like it goes between this note and this note, I want to bend exactly to this note and I don't want to go past it. Or I need to hit the note itself. So a good thing to do is to hit the note and then go 2 frets down and bend up. And do it slowly, just so you can hear that note slowly attaining pitch. Another thing is once you attain that pitch, don't be in a hurry to put the vibrato on because most people do. So what you want to do is let that note attain pitch and then apply the vibrato. So practice that. Okay, let your ear get accustomed to the pitch and know for certain that you have attained the pitch of the note that you were trying to bend to, and then you put the vibrato on. Now, when it comes to vibrato, all you're trying to do is basically change the note, the pitch of the note, by a certain amount in a rhythmic fashion. So you're bending up to the note, then you're letting go a little bit, let it come down, and then that is what we're trying to do. And what you can practice is doing a slower one at first and then slowly speeding it up. Things like that. And it makes a huge difference because especially once you start bending in tune, it makes your playing a lot easier to listen to, especially when you listen back to it yourself. You want to be, happy about it. So keep that in mind. And the last one is to do with phrasing. It's basically phrase like you speak. And when you're phrasing, you want to use certain aspects of your speech when you communicate to use that in your playing. So there's things like certain words you put an emphasis on it. I didn't go there, something like that. So didn't is the one that has the most emphasis. And then your pitch will go up and come down depending upon what you want to, convey. Just the way that you pitch a certain phrase can change the meaning completely when you speak. So the same thing applies to your playing as well. And there's certain rhythmic aspects to your speech that you can use. And a common example I like to give is like the number you're trying to reach is currently unavailable. And all you should do is, I've just used the rhythmic cadence of that phrase, of that sentence into my playing. So the inspiration is available anywhere. You just listen to people speak, you listen to rappers, you listen to hip hop artists, you listen to jazz musicians, and just take rhythmic cues from what they're doing and apply that. And especially if you can learn to say or speak a phrase, or something like that, it becomes a lot easier to play it on the instrument because it makes sure you've internalized the phrase, the rhythm of the phrase, and then it comes out a lot easier. Another good source is drum fills because like a you can just take a whole bunch of drum phrases and just add notes to it and you've got some cool phrases on the guitar. So I hope these helped. If you've got any questions, comments, feel free to leave them, like and subscribe. And let me know if you've got any questions actually about what I've just spoken about. If you want me to elaborate on any of them, just let me know. Maybe I can do another video or I can leave a reply in the comments. Thank you.